What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Wager Alarm live stream. I'm your host, Howard Bender. With me here, Craig Mish. It's baseball season, baby. It's baseball season. Craig, we're gonna talk NCAA tournament another time, baby. How great is baseball being back?
It is great, but Boston College is down 16 to Pittsburgh here in a game that I had the under. I can't wait for us to do our NCAA tournament upcoming live stream. We're going to kill it. We're going to do very well like we did during the NFL season. But yes, it is baseball time. It's been probably a month since our last live stream, so I'm excited to be back with you. And win totals is something through the years that I've been pretty good at. I never say anything in gambling that I'm great at, because nobody is great, but I'm as good as I think I can be. And so tonight we're going to run down the American League win totals.
You are master of the hedge, my friend. Master of the hedge. I'm pretty good at it. Won't say I'm great, but I know I'm pretty good at it.
I don't think there's anything wrong with saying what I'm good and bad at. But I will tell you that last year I picked one total, went very heavy on it, and won. And we're going to do that on this live stream tonight as well. I will take full responsibility if you lose, but I will not give you any money.
Okay, there you go. That's fair enough. I like hearing that. We're going to do the American League this today. Next week, when we come back on Tuesday, we're going to do the National League. And then the following Friday, we're going to end up doing our MVP, player props, Cy Young Award, all that fun stuff, to get you guys all set and ready. The Japan series starts on March 20th, but those player props are all still able to be bet once we do it on Friday. So without further ado, let's start talking some wins totals here. We're doing the American League. Do you want to go division by division? How do you want to do this, Craig? Because I'm game for anything.
Okay, so we'll do the American League. Let me give you my little bit of an intro into season win totals. There are some casinos now in Vegas that are using a sliding scale for the first month or two of the season. We saw that with the NFL and with the NBA. I don't know how baseball is going to factor into this, but in general, at most places, you have to make your bet before the season starts. Sometimes after one game, they'll still let you do it because they don't think it's a big deal either way. And if you could, why not take advantage of that? But unfortunately, a lot of us don't live in Las Vegas, so we don't have a choice. As it pertains to these, we'll certainly give our opinions on every single one of them. I do like a few. I will say this. Usually as it pertains to the top and the bottom with the totals, the 90s and the 60s, I usually don't get involved in those. Most teams that win 90, they have a good shot of going under that. And the teams that win in the 60s, they have a good shot of going over. It is really hard, despite what you think, to lose 100 games in Major League Baseball. There's a reason why only one or two lose 100 games. Now, remember, Baltimore was not predicted to lose 100 games last year when they lost 110. So it's just not so easy to look at Baltimore this year and say, oh, under again. It doesn't work like that. Every season is different. And another very important statistic when you're making these wagers and going back and looking from year to year, aside from the players that have been added to teams, and I'll get into that as well, which is why I like the middle teams. I like those teams in the 70s to focus on that. I'll explain that in a minute. The other thing that you have to do is you have to be really careful about teams that won or lost a lot of one-run games last year. That's going to change this year. So go back and take a look at all the teams that won or lost by a run. Those things even themselves out. It's like when a pitcher strands runners all the time. You know that that's going to even itself out. Batted balls in play. That's another thing that changes. The same thing for Vegas totals. One-run games is an anomaly, and it changes. The reason why I like the middle so much, Howard, is that I like to identify teams that at the All-Star break, if they're out of it, what's their plan? And that plan is to dump. If they're in it, what's their plan? Their plan is to add. So I try to identify those teams that when they get to that point, what will their plan be? And that's kind of the way that I usually dive in. So one of my favorite ones will be a team right in the middle. To give you context for this, we talked about this a little bit last year. My team was under 76 wins on the Texas Rangers. Why? Because last year they went into the season. People thought, they looked at the Rangers and thought, oh, they're usually a pretty good team every year. What did they do last offseason? Nothing. They didn't do one single thing except for sign Tim Lincecum. He didn't end up pitching a game with them last year. We thought, oh, he's going to be the closer. He didn't pitch a single game with them last year. They did nothing else. Those are the kind of teams that I like to bet under on, because what are they going to do in July, Howard? They are going to sell off the rest of their players. Right. I think I've identified one of those teams, but certainly we can start by the AL East, and we can go team by team, and then take this to the house with the American League.
I love it. Absolutely. Let's get it started here. Why don't we'll start off division by division. We'll start in the American League East. Might as well just go for broke right now and do the two biggest, baddest boys on the block, and the Red Sox and the Yankees. Yankees right now, the line says 96.5. They won 100 games last year. We know what they've done. We know what's going on here with the Yankees. I mean, Stanton now in his second year with the Yanks. Now, they do have some pitching issues here. Obviously, Severino's banged up. I don't know really who they're going to be able to replace him with on a long-term basis here, at least for the first month. Yankees could start themselves off in a little bit of a hole. I do think, though, they've got the offense to kind of pick that up. Now, you said you don't like betting on these games either. Even after a 100-win season, I look at the 96.5, and I know that with the imbalanced schedule for MLB, knowing 18 times against the Red Sox, 18 times against the Rays, teams that just play them tough on a routine basis here, I don't want to touch this one.
Yeah, it's one that the two high ones, the Yankees and the Red Sox, and we could just kind of say it like this, is that I would expect both teams to go over this number, but I don't really love getting involved in the high 90s because, again, you could lose one significant player off your team, and that's an immediate under if that is the case. And Severino, I think, does factor into that. The Yankees have increased their bullpen in a big way. They have Britton, they have Ottavino, they have Chapman, they still have Chad Green. And if there's one team that could afford a pitching loss, it's probably them, because they could really just go 5 and dive, get a pitcher to go 5 innings, take him out of the game, and use the bullpen. I do think Stanton will have a better second year. I do think that either Voit or Bird, whoever plays, has got to be an upgrade from last year, whatever they had. They'll probably end up getting a good year out of one of those guys, too. Andujar's in his second year. Gleyber Torres in his second year. Sanchez, you would expect to bounce back. Judge missed some of the year last year. There's a lot of arrows pointing up with the Yankees. So I would go over with the Yankees, probably not one that I would bet. And in terms of the Red Sox, I would probably do the same thing. These teams are going to feed on the Orioles over and over again. They're going to feed on the Jays over and over again. And so probably over for Boston. They're not going into the season with any major injuries. I do think the Yankees will win the division. I think there's always something to that World Series hangover. We saw it with the Cubs. We saw it with Houston last year. I think we'll see it with Boston again. They could still win 98 games and go over here. So my leans on Boston and New York would be over their 96 total.
I'm surprised that the Red Sox are as low as they are at 94.5. That really does surprise me. Or they're at 94 now?
Right.
So that, to me, I mean, the fact that they're lower than the Yankees is interesting. I'm curious as to how much of it is about that World Series hangover, how much about it is no Craig Kimbrell in the bullpen right now. And if you look at what's going on with their bullpen here in spring training, Matt Barnes, Tyler Thornburg, Ryan Brashear, these guys are not – they're not doing well right now, and I'm wondering if the fact that there's a really just a weakness in the bullpen is what's helping keep that wins total down a little bit.
Yeah, maybe so. And again, I think that most teams that win the World Series usually go under their total the following year. The Cubs did it. The Astros did it. So it's certainly possible, but I do think that Boston has a chance to break that mold. I really like their team a lot. The other thing that they could potentially do is if they do have bullpen issues, they could go to Eovaldi there. Like they have some other options that they could go with, and they're going to score a lot of runs. But yes, it's going to be a major issue for them in the second half of the season and in the postseason. But in April, they'll probably just get by with what they have.
All right, let's go to the complete opposite side of the spectrum here. Let's do the Baltimore Orioles. The number's at 59 right now. They won 47 games. You want to talk about a team who didn't really do anything for themselves here in the offseason. They lose Adam Jones. They keep guys like Chris Davis. They lose Jonathan Scope. There's no pitching here whatsoever. No. When a team loses a 4, I know you don't like playing these lower ones here, but, I mean, they lost 47 games. They're absolutely atrocious right now with very minimal work in the offseason. The 59, you still think that that's a tough number to reach on the under?
Yeah, I mean, they'd have to be 23 games better than they were last year, 47, and yeah, they'd have to really make a significant jump, and I don't see it. They're also a team that could dump players, but you just can't be influenced with a horrible season that like they had, like a historically horrible season that they had last year. The upside for them is their bullpen could be okay. Hayes in the outfield, Mullins in the outfield, VR at second base, Mancini's okay. Look, it's not going to be a good team, but I think it's just very hard for me to bet on a team to lose 100 games. That's the kind of division that you actually could, but I think in this case I would take Baltimore over 59.5 and expect them to win 60, 61, 62. If you go back and look at teams historically that are that low in Vegas, they usually go over.
Okay. Very interesting. I'm not going to touch it then. I hear what you're saying. The Rays, 90-game winners last year. Their total's down at 84 right now. They're returning a fair amount of guys, and they actually kind of did some things to improve themselves a little bit. You and I talked on Sirius XM about Sergio Romo and him being that guy in the bullpen for them possibly. They've got some decent weapons there.
Yeah, Romo's on the Marlins. As far as what I see here with
Romo's on the Marlins.
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah, he's on the Marlins.
Oh, jeez. Why did I think he was with the Rays? Because that's all we talked about was the Rays and the Marlins.
So with with the Rays,
Wait a minute, I got an idea.
That looks good.
Oh, look at that!
As far as the Rays are concerned, I'm going under on this number. I think the opener is a good idea. I think it can work. Teams are smart. I think that they will figure the Rays out a little bit. It almost reminds me a little bit of when the Miami Dolphins used the Wildcat that one year and had all that success. I'm not saying that it's going to be the same thing with the Rays, but I just don't see how a team over the course of the entire season can go without starting pitching. Remember, the Rays didn't start this the first week of the season. They just kind of morphed into it, and so did Oakland. A lot of nice young players. Lau and Wendell at second base have some potential there. Mm-hmm. I talked to you on our radio show. I think Kiermaier will bounce back and will have a good year. There are some nice pieces to like, and they arguably have one of the best pitchers in the American League in Blake Snell. But I am going to go under the 84.5. I just can't I can't see the opener working like it did last year for them again.
You know what? And I got to be honest with you is that I'm not 100% sure why. I mean, I don't think they need to use the opener on a regular basis here.
They are.
They're not going to use it with Blake Snell, are they?
No, but after their two, they're going opener, opener, opener.
They're going to use the opener on Tyler Glasnow. They're going to use the opener on Charlie Morton, or no on Morton and yes on Glasnow.
I think that their only two starters are Snell and Morton, and they haven't guaranteed anything beyond that. Maybe they'll use a three, but there's definitely back-to-back days of using the opener. They've talked about that already.
Which, you know what, and again, I'm not averse to that, and I don't necessarily. Are they going to end up with the best ERA in the league in the second, in the first half like they did in the second half last year? No, probably not. I mean, teams are going to try and find ways to counter it, I'm sure.
And that's when that happens. So if they win 80 games, is it a disaster for Tampa? No. And that's where I see them at.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to Toronto then.
My favorite one of all.
All right. Well, why? Because they're so darn good? Because they play in a hitter's park and the ball could fly out at a moment's notice? Because
the under
can just go boom?
The under on the Blue Jays is my favorite wager going into the season on the over-unders. The Jays are right in that middle. They're sitting at 74, 75 wins. They did absolutely nothing in the offseason outside of adding, I think, Drury and Shoemaker. Maybe they got Drury last year. Smoke will be traded in July. Morales will be traded in July. Does Vlad even come to the rescue at this point? I'm not even sure. I thought that was a very big injury for the total here. Maybe not for reality, maybe not for fantasy, but on their win total, I thought that was huge. They'll still call up Kevin Biggio. They'll still call up Bo Bichette. So we're counting on rookies to get them over that 74-75 win total. Will Stroman be on the team in July? Will Aaron Sanchez be on the team in July? This team on paper isn't a good team already. I don't know how their total is at 75. It should be lower. They have a chance to lose 100 games this year, and I don't think that they'll care. What did they do? Did they add anything this offseason? Are they trying? I think they're looking up the division going, Tampa, no shot. Boston, no shot. New York, no shot. All right, we'll take our year off. I'm not saying it's a tank year for them, but I see 90 losses from this team. It's under for me.
This could definitely be a tank year for them. You've got some amazing talent there in Biggio and Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero. Guerrero's injury is a big deal. They were planning on keeping him down anyway. They wanted to make sure that they had that extra year of service time. And if you look at him, I mean, it looks like he swallowed Cecil Fielder.
Yeah,
so he's ballooned up.
36 games against the Yankees and Red Sox, and they still got to play some good teams too. The Blue Jays are very hardcore fans. They're a great, proud franchise, but I think you just got to call a spade and look at it and say, man, we have no shot to compete in this division. And I think that they have some really good pieces to move. I think Smoke will be a nice bat for somebody else in the American League in August. I think Kendrys Morales on his final year will also get traded. And so then you have to look at the young players and say, well, do they have a lot of young players that could come on? And yeah, I mean, there's certainly that chance, but I'm not going to bank on that to get that to like 80 wins. I don't see it at all with this team. If it was a different division, maybe so, but I think they're going to get clobbered this year. And I think they're going to be among the top 3 or 4 worst teams in baseball this year. No pitching. Giles, I like a lot. I like that they got Bud Norris too. They'll probably trade both those guys too at the deadline. I'm just going under.
Listen, I'm fine with that. 74 is the number. They won 73 last year. They didn't do anything to improve their team. They will shovel a lot of these guys out the door. I like it. That's your favorite one of the whole.
That's my favorite one. Yeah, of all of them. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. All right. Mental note, guys. Blue Jays under 74 right now.
It was 76. Opened up at 76. I should have got on it, but now Vlad got hurt. Went down again.
All right. Well, there you go. That's the American League East. Let's head over to the Central here. Let's talk about the Tribe. 91 right now is their number. They won 91 last year. Can't say that they've done anything to really improve the team. They're losing Lindor for the first month of the season. Trevor Bauer, Carlos Carrasco. The bullpen was their big Achilles heel last year. It absolutely fell apart. They got rid of Cody Allen. They come into the season now with Brad Hand in the ninth. He had a great year for San Diego last season. So, he came to the Tribe. He did pretty well.
He did. And they lost Andrew Miller also. They did get Carlos Santana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jose Ramirez is still a very good player. Their outfield is in flux. This is a great bet to pass on.
Yeah, the outfield's terrible, actually.
Yeah, you look at this team and you say that could they win 90 games by default? And the answer is yes, because of the division they play in. Minnesota is the only threat there, and that's what makes this one really tough. They really didn't have to do a lot in the offseason to still win the division. And I simply don't think that they'll fall apart and only win like 83, 84 games. They'll probably get close to 90. So they replace Encarnacion. They end up getting Carlos Santana. Is that a huge downgrade? I really don't think so. Lindor's health is definitely a key here, but provided that he ends up playing 130, 140 games, Cleveland's going to win the division. They're going to win their 90 games or 89 or 91. It's just not one that I like.
Okay, I can dig that. The other competitive team in that division there, 85 is the mark for the Minnesota Twins. They won 78 last year. They did do some things to improve the team, very much so. So, I mean, adding Nelson Cruz, Jonathan Scope to an already, solid team. They lose Miguel Sano, but I don't think they really miss a beat too much there. They get a full year out of Jorge Polanco, who was serving an 80-game suspension last season. So, I mean, they've got a lot of moving parts here. They've got some good stuff. I definitely think that they're better than the 78 wins from last year. Are they an 85-win team? That I don't know about. So that's one I'll stay away from as well.
Yeah, I probably would lean toward the over here. I think there's a chance they could win the division. The division is very poor, and the Twins are one of those teams when you think they're going to be good, they're bad, and when you think they're going to be bad, they're good, which is what's happened over the last couple of years. But as you mentioned, they added some really nice pieces. They added Scope. I think that'll be a nice addition to them. I think adding Marwin Gonzalez can't be overlooked. He's going to get a chance to play every day now at third base, and I don't think that he's a downgrade from Miguel Sano at all. Barrios is a really good front-end starter. Blake Parker could save some games for them, and maybe they're not done. Maybe they end up with Kimbrel or Keuchel or somebody else. So I think the number's a little bit low here. I don't know that I would bet it or not, but my recommendation on the Twins definitely would be the over if I had to choose.
All right. Now the bottom feeders in there. Royals 69.5 right now. They won 58. I'll say this about Kansas City. There's not any real legit power threat on this team, so somebody driving in runs is going to be tough to do. But when you've got Merrifield, Mondesi, and Billy Hamilton there, yeah. I mean, it's a bunch of mice running around the field. They're going to manufacture runs. I mean, how successful they're going to be on a regular basis is yet to be seen. But, I mean, this is a team that could really play a lot of close games. The 69.5, I mean, that's where the problem is. Do I think that they're actually a 70-win team? No, I don't. I lean on the under here, but I think it's a really close call. I think it's closer than that 58-win season last year.
Yeah, they'll probably be a little bit better than they were last year, but the issue that's going to happen with the Royals is that when you're playing 1982 St. Louis Cardinals baseball and running with Ozzie Smith and Tommy Herr and Lonnie Smith, when you're doing that, the whole league has to be winning and losing 3-1. Here's the problem: when they're down 5-1, they're done, and right. that's gonna be a major problem when they're playing against the other teams in the American League. They still got to play the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Indians, and the Angels can score runs. The A's have some big bats too, and when they're down, they're done. So I can't go over 69.5 wins here. I think they'll be improved. I think they could be 5 to 10 games better. But yet another team that will Billy Hamilton get traded at the deadline? Probably so. Will they move some bullpen pieces? Probably so. This is not a year Kansas City is looking to win. They'll make things interesting. They'll be fun to watch. But nah, I'd go under on this one.
All right, me too. As would I. I like that a lot. I like that actually as much as I like the Blue Jays pick as well. Let's see. White Sox. The mark is at 74 right now. They were a 62-win team. You know, they had the potential of really making some solid improvements to this team. I really did. And I thought that had they landed a Machado or a Harper, really could have done something nice for them. I feel like they're a little on the stagnant side. I don't like a lot of the moves that they made. There's not really anything exciting on the mound for this team. 74 after a 62-win season. I'm kind of leaning on the under here as well.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I don't see how the White Sox get to 74 wins. They have a couple of nice offensive pieces in Anderson and Abreu.
Who could get traded. Yeah.
But they didn't add enough. And I don't know how they get 12 wins better than they were last year. I don't see that. Now, I think the counter to that is Giolito will be better. Rodon will be healthy. Their pitching does look better on paper this year than it did last year, and pitching is always big. Let's also remember, Howard, the reason why this number is 74 is because the Royals are in the division and the Tigers are in the division. And even if they split with those teams, those wins are going to pile up. But that being said, I'll go over on Detroit. We'll get to that. But I'm going to go under on the White Sox also. I think the number is too high.
Okay. I'm going on the under as well at 74. I like doing the under there. For Detroit, you're on the over, 68.5.
I'm going to go over on the Tigers, yeah.
Bounce back year for Miggy?
Yes, I like a bounce back year for Miggy. I like Nick Castellanos. If they don't trade him, they certainly could. But Nick Castellanos is a Major League Baseball player, unlike some of these other teams we're talking about. Josh Harrison is a Major League Baseball player. They have
Jordy Mercer. Come on, they've got the Pirates.
He's a Major League Baseball player
too. They got
too.
The Pirates middle infield.
The kid, he's looked great in the spring. Kristen Stewart, he could be a good outfielder.
That should be an interesting guy.
Jordan Zimmerman has been fantastic. He may stink, but Jordan Zimmerman's been great in the spring. They have Tyson Ross. These are all names that I know. So what does it mean? Does it mean the Tigers are going to be good? Absolutely not. But 69 is horrendous. I think they're going to win in the 70s. I think they'll be probably close to a little bit better than the White Sox, probably better than Kansas City, and we can't go under on every team in the division. It's just not going to happen. So
no, definitely not. Definitely not.
So this is the one team that I could see going over, but again, you are riding Miguel Cabrera, Castellanos, but not by very much. If the Tigers go 72-90, that's a horrible year, but it goes over on their total. Yeah. I like that.
It's all about Nico Goodrum. That's the jersey I'm going to end up getting.
Second baseman, right?
He qualifies at second base. I think they're going to have him play first.
Think about the retread pitchers that this team has, by the way. Daniel Norris, Tyson Ross, Jordan Zimmerman, Matt Moore.
Oh, Matt Moore. Matt Moore. That's Matt Moore is the reason why you won your Rangers bet last year. Admit it. Matt Moore is the reason why you won the under on the Rangers last year.
Odor wasn't good either at the beginning. Mazzara wasn't good either.
Matt Moore. He was so bad. So bad. All right, so there you go. That's the Central. Let's hit the West. We'll start off with the Angels. 83.5 is the mark. Would they win 86 games last year? Can't remember. What's my sheet say? Let me lean in closer. 80.
West is tough to handicap. I think that I would probably not touch the Angels. They have a lot of new pieces on one-year deals. There's a lot of moving parts there. It's one of those teams that with Harvey and Cahill and Ohtani, not sure if he's healthy or not, and would this team get wild, Howard, and trade Trout at the deadline? I don't think so. But you just never know. It's just there's too many questions to me with this team. Pujols is still there. His health is definitely a question. I'm just gonna not touch the Angels. I think I'm just gonna stay away from this one. When you don't sign a lot of guys to multi-year deals, you can go one way or the other. They can add or they can subtract. The problem with the Angels is, do we really ever know every year what they're going to do? And by the way, their pitchers are always a walking disaster. Is Heaney going to be healthy? Is Skaggs going to be healthy? We don't know. It's just a stay away one for me.
All right, let's hit the Astros then. 96.5 is the
over
number.
On the Astros.
You're over on the Astros.
Over.
Automatically.
Yep, no doubt. Over on the Astros. I'll keep going over on them. They're the most talented team in the American League still. They're going to figure out the pitching. I believe they still will. Bregman is fantastic. Correa is fantastic. I'm a little scared of Altuve right now. I wish he was on the field. I saw him tonight. He's still in uniform, so it can't be that bad. Maybe Altuve is not what he was, but they still have so many young, great players. And let's not forget, one of the most underrated signings, I think, this offseason, or trades, whatever, is Michael Brantley. Michael Brantley, if he's healthy, is going to add a lot to Houston. And batting cleanup in that lineup, Brad Peacock's look great. McHugh, Cole, Verlander, Osuna, all those bullpen arms. Whitley comes up. They're winning 100.
I can go down with that. I also think another underrated move that nobody really talks about is Robinson Chirinos. They're finally getting a little bit more stability behind the plate. He's a better than average pitch framer. I think he's going to be able to handle this staff really well. I think it's going to be that's going to be a nice underrated move as well. So him and Brantley, I like the addition there.
I like there. And by the way, they get to the deadline. What does Houston always do? They try to add. They tried to get Bryce Harper this past year. You bet the over and you forget about it. They're going over.
All right, Oakland, 85.5 is the mark. They won 97 games last year.
You know better than me. You live out there. I don't know how they do it.
I don't know how they won 97 games last year. I have no clue.
Who are their starting pitchers?
The only one that I can really come to
is the guy that has
Luzardo,
and he made a major start.
Not a bit. Not a bit.
Mike Fiers, I think, is their opening day starter.
Mike Fiers is their opening day starter, which is never a good thing because
they sent down Mencken.
Fire.
I don't know why, but they
Marco Estrada, Brett Anderson, Frankie Montas, Daniel Mengen.
They sent him down.
It's this whole crew. It's a terrible crew. It's a horrible pitching staff. They're going to use the opener. They're definitely going to.
Yeah, they're definitely going to do that. I like their offense. I like Piscotty. I think that they have the ability to score a lot of runs, but it's so hard to go under here on that number 84 because that would mean that they're going to be 14 games worse than they were last year, and they're more or less bringing back the same team. But I mean, look, one of the big stars from that team in the first half of last season was Sean Manaea, and I think he's out for the year this year. So I mean, that's a big loss.
Jed Lowry was their big story.
He had a great year too. I'll go under. It's not something I love, but I'll go under the number. But that's like my heart telling me to go under. My head is saying go over because look, I mean, it's like the same team, and you're saying they're going to be 15 games worse. How is that possible? But maybe it is a matter of of just staying away from this one because, truth be told, Seattle can't be as good as they were last year, and some of those wins could pile up from them.
That is true. Seattle's numbers at 72, though. I'm kind of ticking on the over here, though.
I agree. I do like the over. I still think that they have an opportunity to win some games. Kikuchi was a nice addition in the offseason. Marco Gonzalez pitched well for them. We start with the pitching. The only thing that does worry me again is you had a team in a lot of one-run games, Howard, last year, and Edwin Diaz saving 57 of those. That's going to go away. But do they really need to do a lot to get to 75? No, not really. I kind of put them in the same category as the Tigers with a little bit of a better team. I don't think they're that much better, but a little bit better. So we'll see. But Edwin Encarnacion, again, for the second straight year, Howard. Last year, he batted $105 in the spring. He batted $100 in April. Right now, he's batting $120 in the spring. He's probably going to get off to a slow start again. So you have to kind of ride that wave in April and hope that they can sustain some wins. And then, but I do like your thinking on it. I would go over.
What I'm kind of hoping for with this team is also because, you're losing Nelson Cruz's bat out of the middle of the lineup. You're losing Robbie Cano's bat out of the middle of the lineup there. I think Domingo Santana is going to be able to put up
That's a good thing too.
Some decent numbers. I think that was a nice addition. He's going to sit there. Now, Kyle Seager's a little banged up right now. But, I'll tell you, you just said it with Kikuchi, Marco Gonzalez. I dig that, the two of those guys as starters for this team. I think they'll be competitive. I just think that the 72 is just it's really low, and it's coming out there because no Nelson Cruz, no Robbie Cano, and I think that's going to be a nice little 75. Yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable number.
Yeah, Mitch Haniger is still there. He's a good player. D. Gordon had a down year last year. I could see him bouncing back a little bit.
Ryan Healy could DH. He had a bad year last year. I think he's got the potential of doing something. No, he's not. He's terrible.
Yeah, apparently they're giving him a shot this year.
They're always giving him a
Mike
shot.
Leake, their pitching isn't great, but it's serviceable. Gonzalez, Kikuchi, Leake, King Felix, Wade LeBlanc, Justice Sheffield. You know what? If they hadn't added Kikuchi, I wouldn't be as confident, but they obviously feel like they have a chance to be semi-competitive. They wouldn't have added him. What would be the point of that? So who knows? I'll and Jay Bruce there too. Yeah, I'll go over the 72.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of funny. You talk about Kikuchi, and we talk about the fact that guys coming over from Japan are only used to throwing once a week instead of the whole 2-start every 5-day kind of thing. I'm curious as to how much the new schedule for MLB is going to impact it, because there are a lot more off days this year than there have been, and I think we're going to see a lot fewer 2-start pitchers this year than we do see regularly. So I think that kind of tilts certain, into favor of certain teams there, because, you're playing like the Red Sox, and you have to see, Chris Sale's going to be, twice in a week. I mean, that's a tough week for any pair of teams there, knowing that they both have to see Sale. Now that it kind of stretches out a little bit, it should be interesting. Not enough to have me go on the Rangers.
Right. By the way, closing out the book on Seattle, one thing I do want to add here is that the bullpen is going to be a disaster. I didn't realize that. That's part of the equation here. But the names from Seattle, by the way, are Hunter Strickland, Anthony Swarzak, Corey Guerin, Dan Altavilla. So proceed with caution there.
Where's Emilio Pagan? I thought isn't Emilio Pagan with this club?
Apparently not.
Jeez, man.
Isn't he with Oakland?
Did he go over to Oakland?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Texas is what, 76?
71, dude. 76.
That was what I had him at last year, 71. I would go over on Oakland or Texas also.
Yeah.
Texas does have a little bit more pitching this year. Their young players are a year older, and they were close enough to that 71 win total last year to make me think that all those players could get a little bit better. Odor has looked great so far in spring training. I believe Mike Minor is their opening day starter, if I'm not mistaken. So the starting pitching is not going to be great, but I think it is good enough to get by. Their bullpen is okay. Not a huge lean on like I would do with Seattle, but I would also go over on Texas this year.
All right, so there you go, guys. That's the entire American League right there. Craig, your favorite bet right there off the bat is the Blue Jays on the under.
Without
they're at 74 right now.
Yeah, without a doubt, that's my favorite one. But again, and understand this: if you're in Las Vegas or New Jersey or wherever you're doing this, the numbers are going to be different online. So if you feel, some people would say, if you feel really strongly about something, it shouldn't matter. One win shouldn't matter, and you should just bet it for whatever. I try to get the best number possible. I'm willing to lay 120 to win 100, or in this case, 1,000, because I'll go big on these or go home. And I'll explain that. But either way, my goal is always I'm not so worried about the odds with season win totals. I'm worried about the best win total. The other thing that I would tell you is I can't tell you how much to bet or not to bet. It all depends on you, and it depends on your bankroll. And so I would never advocate like using your rent money to make a bet. But understand this: when you're making a season-long Major League Baseball bet, okay, a season-long bet, if you bet $100, it is the equivalent of betting like $15 a month on your season win total. And to me, respectfully speaking, that's not a lot of money. So on one of these bets, if you're going to bet $100 on a college basketball game here and there, and you're going to bet on the AAF or whatever you're doing, $100, $200 here and there, look at it over a 5-month period. And what would your budget be if you were going to bet one baseball game a month, if it was $100? So just kind of put that incrementally by 4 or 5 times, and that's where you should come up with your bet. So like, let's say you're a $100 bettor, you should bet $600 on your season win total. If you're a $500 bettor on each game, you should probably bet $3,000 on a season win total. And if that number seems pretty steep at the beginning, yes, it does. But guess what? When you collect, you get your $3,000 win, you get your $3,000 back that you bet, you end up getting $6,000 at the end of the baseball season. And trust me, that's a really good feeling. I know.
Well, all right then. So there it is, guys. Blue Jays on the under. I like the Royals in the over on theirs, the 69.5. Okay. I'm probably going to lay down on both of those, actually. I'm going to do that as soon as we get off this live stream, to tell you the truth. So yeah, any final thoughts here before we let the world go, Craig?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the player props. We'll have that next Friday night, and the season starts, of course, on the 28th officially for most of the teams. As you mentioned, Oakland and Seattle will start early, so we have a couple of live streams coming up, one with the same thing for the NL season win totals. So if you're watching this somewhere on demand, we're going to do the same thing in the National League, and I'll give you my opinions on those. And all the teams, including the Marlins, who I cover, I'll give you my opinion as to what I think that they will do. On top of that, we'll also do the AL and NL Cy Young, and we'll also do the MVPs in both leagues also, and some techniques that can really help you with those, not just taking a guy and saying, give me 20 to 1. That's not going to happen, okay? So what we'll try to do is build a technique as to how you may want to partner up a couple of players together, and how I've deduced different players, especially in the Cy Young races. I have some good theories on who I like and why I like those bets.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. And also Monday, March 18th, Craig and I are going to do a special 9:30 p.m. Eastern live stream for NCAA tournament. So if you want to write this down, set your timers on your phone or whatever it is. Monday the 18th, 9:30 p.m. Craig and Howard do the NCAA tournament. On Tuesday the 19th, Craig and I are going to end up doing the National League. And then on Friday, what is that, the 21st? Yeah, it looks like the 21st. Friday the 21st, Craig and I are going to do MVP, Cy Young, prop bets on players. Looking forward to it. So we're going to have a busy week next week for Wager Alarm, so stick with it. It's going to be a great season, man. I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm Howard Bender for Craig Mish. Matt Sells, our producer. Big thanks to him as well. We'll catch you next time.